The neon lights of Murphy's diner cast a blue glow across the empty parking lot, as Emma wiped down tables for what she knew would be the last time. At 25, she had worked at the struggling downtown diner for 3 years, watching it slowly lose customers to the chain restaurants that had moved into the area. Tonight, the owner had finally admitted what everyone already knew. Murphy's would close its doors forever at midnight. Emma's blonde ponytail swayed as she moved between the worn vinyl booths, her turquoise apron pockets containing exactly $17.32. It was all the money she had left in the world, barely enough for bus fare home to her tiny studio apartment where an eviction notice waited on her kitchen table. The bell above the door chimed, and Emma looked up to see a man entering who clearly did not belong in this neighborhood. His clothes were dirty and torn, his hair unwashed and hanging in his eyes, and he moved with the careful deliberation of someone who had not eaten in days. Most people would have asked him to leave, but Emma had learned long ago that hunger looked the same regardless of the circumstances that caused it. "We are closing soon," she said gently, "but I can still get you something if you are hungry." The stranger, who appeared to be in his early 30s despite the weariness that made him seem older, looked at her with surprise. "I do not have any money," he admitted, his voice rough with exhaustion and pride that had been worn thin by desperation. Emma studied his face, seeing something there that reminded her of her own struggles. 6 months ago, she had been in a similar position, choosing between rent and food, relying on the kindness of others to survive until her next paycheck. "What is your name?" she asked. "Daniel," he replied hesitantly. "Well, Daniel, it is your lucky night. The cook made too much food, and it will just go to waste if someone does not eat it." The lie came easily, born from years of watching her mother feed anyone who came to their door hungry, regardless of whether they could afford it. Emma disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a plate containing the diner's signature double cheeseburger, fresh fries, and a side of coleslaw. It was actually her own meal, the one she had been saving to eat after her shift ended. Her stomach had been growling for hours, but seeing Daniel's condition made her own hunger seem insignificant. "This looks incredible," Daniel said, his voice thick with gratitude as she placed the plate before him. "Are you sure about this?" "Absolutely sure," Emma said, refilling his water glass. "Take your time. No one is rushing you." As Daniel ate, Emma continued her closing duties, stealing glances at him when she thought he was not looking. There was something about the way he held himself, even in his current state, that suggested this was not his normal condition. His hands were calloused but clean, and despite his appearance, he ate with a careful politeness that spoke of better times. "This is the best meal I have had in weeks," Daniel said when he had finished. "I cannot tell you what this kindness means. To me?" Emma smiled, though she felt lightheaded from her own hunger. "Everyone deserves a good meal, especially when they are going through a difficult time." Daniel studied her face with an intensity that made her slightly uncomfortable. "You gave me your own dinner, did you not?" "What makes you say that?" Emma asked, but her blush gave her away. "Because there was no extra food in that kitchen when I looked through the service window. Because your stomach has been growling for the past 20 minutes. Because someone who lies that kindly has practice at putting others before herself." Emma looked down, embarrassed at being caught in her deception. "It is just food. I can eat. Tomorrow, can you?" Daniel asked quietly. "When was the last time you had a real meal?" The question hung in the air between them, as Emma realized that this stranger had seen through her careful facade to the truth she tried so hard to hide. She was just as desperate as he was, just better at concealing it. "I will be fine," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Daniel reached into his torn jacket and pulled out a business card that was wrinkled but still readable. "I want you to call this number tomorrow and ask for Daniel Martinez. Tell them I sent you." Emma took the card and read it with growing confusion. It was for Martinez Construction, one of the largest development companies in the state. I do not understand. This is for a millionaire businessman. There must be some mistake. There is no mistake, Daniel said, standing slowly. 3 months ago, I was that businessman. I had everything you could imagine. Money, success, a beautiful home, people who claimed to be friends. Then I discovered that my business partner had been embezzling funds and that most of my wealth was built on illegal activities I knew nothing about. Emma listened in stunned silence as Daniel continued. I lost everything overnight. My assets were frozen, my accounts emptied, my reputation destroyed. I have been living on the streets for 2 months, trying to clear my name and rebuild from nothing. Tonight I was at my lowest point, ready to give up entirely. He gestured toward the empty plate. But then a waitress, who has less than $20 to her name, gave me her last meal without hesitation. You reminded me that there is still goodness in the world, still people who choose kindness over self-preservation. Emma shook her head in disbelief. Even if that is true, why would you want to help me? You do not even know me. I know that you are the kind of person who feeds strangers with food she cannot afford to give away. I know that you treated me with dignity when I looked like someone most people would cross the street to avoid. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. Daniel moved toward the door, then turned back one final time. The legal issues with my company are almost resolved. Within a week, I will have access to my accounts again and control of my business. When that happens, I am going to need people I can trust, people who understand what it means to struggle, people who choose compassion over profit. 3 weeks later, Emma sat in the executive conference room of Martinez Construction, wearing a new business suit and carrying the title of Director of Community Outreach. Her first project was establishing a program to provide job training and employment opportunities for people experiencing homelessness. The program was Daniel's idea, born from his own experience of being invisible on the streets. But Emma brought a passion to it that came from understanding that everyone is just one crisis away from needing help. You know, Daniel said as they reviewed applications from their first group of trainees, I used to think success was measured by how much money you could accumulate. Now I think it is measured by how many people you can lift up along the way. Emma smiled, remembering the frightened, desperate man who had walked into Murphy's diner that night. Sometimes the best investments we make are the ones that cost us everything we have, but give us back everything we need. The last meal Emma had given away had indeed changed her life forever, but not in the way she could have ever imagined. It had taught her that kindness is never wasted, that compassion is always the right choice, and that sometimes helping others is the most direct path to helping ourselves.